Good morning, everybody. You're all very welcome. It's great to see so many of you here this morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ursula Kilkelly. I'm the co-director currently with Dr. Shane Kilcummins of the Centre for Criminal Justice and Human Rights at the Faculty of Law here in University College Cork. The Centre was established in 2006 with really the core aim of promoting and facilitating research in the areas of criminal justice and human rights. And a really key part of the activities of the Centre are the activities carried out and pursued by the postgraduate community. And I think the integral part that the researchers play in the Centre is epitomised by the fact that this is the third annual postgraduate conference of the Centre, and it's now firmly established as an event in our annual calendar, and we're absolutely delighted that that is the case. I know that organisation of conferences like this is a huge challenge. The logistics of organising so many parallel sessions are mind-boggling, and I know also that in the current economic climate these are very difficult events to organise, and that you have probably grappled with problems and issues that you ought not to have to worry about. So I would like, in the light of that particularly, but also more generally, I suppose, to acknowledge the importance of the conference to the Centre and the importance of the postgraduate community to the Centre, to congratulate all of the organisers of the event, and particularly Owen and Mairead, and I know everybody has been involved in playing their part in what is really a fascinating programme of papers. The topic, the promise of law, political claims and the boundaries of justice, I think is also relevant to the current economic and social climate in which we find ourselves. The promise of law, I think, is something that we all realise is hugely important to recognise and also to work with, in terms of, I suppose, recognising in particular the role that human rights values can play in underpinning the responses of government at national and international levels to the crisis that we currently face. The question of whether this is an issue for the judiciary or for the Oireachtas, or indeed for us as citizens, I think, are issues that are going to come up in the papers that we hear throughout the day. But I think it's clear from the title, in terms of the reference to the promise of law, that this is actually the monitoring, certainly, of these issues and how they're responded to is everybody's responsibility with reference to the values that we all subscribe to, particularly, as I said, in the context of human rights, but also the broader in terms also of criminal justice. I would also like to welcome to the conference our keynote speaker, who's Professor Barbara Hudson, who is herself director of a centre at Lancashire Law School, the Centre for Criminology and Criminal Justice Studies. And we were just sharing initial words about the role of directors of centres, and what a privilege it is for both of us to be in these roles. The work that Barbara has done, I know, is that many of you are familiar with it already, and it's an excellent opportunity for us to hear more, particularly in the context of as I said already, the climate in which we find ourselves, but also the connections that we've spent time examining here between criminal justice and human rights, and where the boundaries are in relation to both of those issues, and how they conflict when sometimes that happens, how that's responded to. Her work is extensive. She's published very widely in a whole range of areas relating to criminal justice, criminology, the issues of risk and gender. But this morning she's going to address us on a topic beyond the borders of community, rethinking the boundaries of justice. So can I ask you to welcome Professor Barbara Hudson.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me here. It's a very great privilege. Your centre has a wonderful reputation in England, and I quite see why as I get to know you. I think this is a wonderful event and I'm delighted to be part of it. First of all, an apology. My total lack of making my stick fit the things that come on the screen, so you're just going to have to listen to words. I'm always wary of PowerPoint and using it outside my own study, let alone my own institution. thank you for that kind introduction. And whenever I hear people say she's written on different topics, I think, well, my career is just a mess, really. And particularly, as you'll find when you finish your PhDs, I finished a book I'd been working on for a very long time in 2003. And when you come to the end of a long piece of work, you kind of look round and see what's happened while you were away, as it were. So one of my books coincided with left realism coming to prominence and dying away in England. So I kind of completely missed left realism, I'm happy to say, really. And I've done work on gender and race and criminal justice, and underlying them all is poverty, which I think is the biggest divide in criminal justice. And since I've, as it were, been back looking at what's going on, I've been interested, like a few other people who used to write about kind of standard criminal justice and imprisonment of women and things like that. Quite a few of us have moved into migration, because it seems to me that immigration is where there's terrific injustice on a global and an individual scale. And also, I've just finished an article called Justice in a Time of Terror, which will be published in a special edition of the British Journal of Criminology on the War on Terror in the autumn. So looking at your programme, I'm really spoilt for choice about which panels to sit in, because it kind of, there's something that corresponds to all my current buttons. And thinking about pulling together these seemingly disparate things, what I've always been interested in is justice and otherness, and justice and difference, and particularly justice and power, the powerless other. And the work I'm doing now really tries to bring all those things together. And the phrase, the boundaries of justice, clearly boundaries are being extended or pushed up against in terms of things that need legal regulation, or things that law is taking it upon itself to regulate. So issues to do with things like mercy killing, obviously lots of things to do with the spread of computers, a whole new area of legal regulation. But justice is also having to extend its boundaries in terms of people. So we're all called upon to defend human rights of people who are not our own citizens. And that's what I've been particularly interested in, and what I want to talk about is the need to rethink justice in order to do justice to people who are strangers. So what links a lot of my work is the idea of justice and the stranger, who may be strangers in the sense that they're not part of our geographical political communities, which obviously takes in the migration issue, but also might be our fellow citizens, but they're strangers in the sense that we can't possibly understand their behaviour, which for criminal justice is obviously a problem.